Welcome back to Two Crows Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler, and we have Jeremy with us today. Other way.
Hello.
I even practiced that. And
uh,
Jeremy's here to tell us some scary stories. But
yeah, I don't know
yeah,
how scary they'll be, but they will certainly be
weird.
enlightening. Weird and enlightening, I think is what I'm
Okay.
hoping for. So
I've been warned that they might get scary, though.
there are some elements to it that could cause some disturbing thoughts, I guess.
Well, you said things might happen.
That is possible. Yeah, I was actually discussing some of this stuff with my best friend the other night, and um, just all of a sudden, as she was gonna be texting me back, and she said a metal cup that was up on a shelf just flew across the room, and when I had when a few nights ago when was talking to my friend who is also excuse me, has become my spiritual counselor. She had a coughing fit and she couldn't stop for a few minutes. And, it was just, they do not want us talking about this stuff, and I'll explain why as we get further into the story.
I also wanted to mention to everybody that we're pushing Jeremy to be a voice actor. And you will know while they're telling the story, and you will agree with me. But they do a lot of readings of poetry and works on TikTok as well as other places, right?
Yeah, I've started posting stuff on YouTube, and I have been posting some stuff on Instagram. I need to kind of be a little more consistent with those other platforms, but I mean, the response that I've got, I originally started on TikTok to promote my artwork, and now here I am. The bulk of what I do now is poetry readings, and I mean, last night I did the Raven,
Hmm.
which you thought was good. Um, yeah, so it's been enlightening. I've had a couple of professional voice actors listen to my stuff, and they were like, I told them, I said, my friends have been pushing me to pursue this, and they both have been, yes, I agree with your friends. So
Yes.
that's been a wonderful thing.
And
So it's
audiobooks.
yes, and I actually am planning to do a reading for before Halloween. I'm actually planning to
Mhm.
do a reading of at the request of another friend, another TikTok friend, um, of Edgar Allan Poe's The Mask of the Red Death.
That's one of my favorites. The one that
I
I
love that
did
one.
on here was my least favorite Poe work, but it was
Hmm.
the most requested. So I'm like, okay, I'll read it, but I sound like I'm a horrible person who just killed a cat. But
I thought about doing the Telltale Heart, but that's the one that everybody does. So and then when my friend Kayla had suggested Mask of the Red Death, I was like, yep.
hmm,
So I'll probably have to break it up into a couple of different
yeah.
videos on TikTok, but YouTube I'll end up pushing the whole thing. And I think I can actually do that on Instagram now too. They've allowed the reels to be a lot longer.
Oh, I noticed that actually when I went to post something and thought I'd have to break it down and I didn't.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of nice. I mean, I know that the shorter ones get seen more, but
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, the the reading of the Raven that I did last night, um, it's almost 10 minutes long. And
you can't
it
stop it. You can't.
no, that's when you have to hear it in full because of the way it escalates
Hmm.
to the end of the poem. Um, it was I had to do it a couple times because it gets more and more intense, and then when you
Hmm.
finally hit that last stanza, it goes from up here to just right straight down, and trying to retune that emotion in the midst of it was a challenge. But yeah, you know that that one has performed no better or worse than any of the other stuff.
Hmm.
I seem to be in that 200 to 300 brick wall territory at
I've
this
been
point.
stuck there too. I don't know
I don't
what's
get it.
going on.
I don't get it. I'll have to, I don't know, I'll have to kind of whip out the cleavage or something. Increase
Dang
my
it, that's
views.
what it is.
I'm, I'm that furry vest outfit. I'm just telling you.
That is one of my favorites. I actually have it in my car right now. I brought it in case anyone wanted to use it for a photo shoot, and or if I had time to do a photo shoot of myself, which I have not. But I've been doing a lot of photo shoots,
Yes, you have. They're wonderful.
and this one's gonna air before Halloween. I've been doing there's a little bug. Uh I sorry. It flew like right here. Um and I want and the more I do of them, the more I want to do them for myself, but I have less time because more people see them and then more people want me to do them. So I'm supposed to do another one on Friday and it's supposed to be raining and they're like, if it's just sprinkling a little bit, will you still do it? And I'm like, okay.
That's a good problem to have, though. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
people say, and I mean, I love seeing these photographs. They're just wonderful. So
I will post a couple for you guys on Instagram, but I will also post some of Jeremy's work. If you want to send me some of the artwork you want me to post so
sure.
that they can see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like posting little things for each episode if I remember. I'm so bad at social media, you guys.
And I actually have the one that
Yes!
the one that's
Ah!
going to be sent out to you this weekend. So
And if you guys are on audio, this is on video as well. Any of my episodes with guests will be on video as long as they have the capability and will be on YouTube. So this may be one you want to watch instead of listen to or do both.
get to see my goofy troll looking face.
It's kind of fun to put a face to the voice when you've been just listening to.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, there's been a couple of people that I had listened to for a couple years, had no idea what they looked like. And then I saw them on some sort of social media. One of them does not do video episodes,
Hmm.
true crime all the time.
Okay.
I really like them. And I finally saw what they look like because of Crime Con, which I really want to go to. But they did not look how I thought they were going to look.
That
That's not a
happens a
bad
lot.
thing. It's just you put something in your head.
I think I don't know as if I would have that problem. I mean, my voice is relatively, it's not super low, but I mean, I'm a big guy, so it's not. I don't think my voice sounds different than how I look,
When you're
unless
reading,
yeah.
though, so when you're doing your poetry and stuff, the way I was gonna describe it to you, but I was like, this sounds so bad. But I was like, when you close your eyes, it's a timeless voice that
Mm,
it could be someone who's in their 20s and it could be someone in their 80s. Like it's you can kind of put it together with somebody who is in your life that
mhm.
like was a storyteller or like you can kind of connect yourself to somebody within any time like period of their
Yeah.
life and kind of put that voice together with it.
Yeah, well, I still say that the compliment that you gave me this morning was probably the best one I've ever gotten. That was just wonderful. That was just
Aw.
wonderful. 'Cause, I know for myself, I idolized my grandfather, so
Yeah.
that's just a wonderful thing.
I love my grandpa. And my grandpa is my dad's best friend. And so it's very, I don't know, it feels like generational of like
Hmm.
us all being friends.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yes,
So,
we can dive into your stuff.
okay, so to preface this whole thing, I have been, and I still am, a dyed in the wool skeptic. I am not super big on supernatural things. I walked away. I was raised Catholic. Um, so, I mean, I walked away from the church as soon as I could. Um, so I'd never really given much stock to that. I've always considered myself not an atheist, but agnostic.
Mhm.
I don't know, you know, which is fine. But there's always been some things that I have seen and heard and felt that made me wonder. Um, One of the very first, how I came to this whole, whatever you want to call it, spiritual awakening, getting answers and whatnot. How I came to this is I had had a reading done by my friend Brie, who's a psychic medium. And it was really super accurate. And she was very insightful. So she also offers spiritual counseling sessions. So there's an answer to a question that I have always wanted. And it goes back to when I was about 5 or 6 years old. I woke up in the middle of the night and I looked over into the corner of my room and I saw this shadow figure
Mhm.
standing there. Now, a lot of people have seen shadow figures, and even Brie was like, "Oh, then she related it to an experience she's had." Um, the bigger difference was this thing had glowing red eyes,
Ooh.
and I was terrified enough. But when this thing opened its eyes, it was just like, okay. And when you're 5 or 6 years old, your first instinct is to grab your covers and pull them over your head because when you're 5 or 6, those things are bulletproof.
Oh, they're gonna
You know,
save you.
absolutely. You keep your feet underneath and your hands inside, and nothing can get you.
I was about to mention the feet.
Yes, no feet shall dangle off the bed. And there are nights now. I'm 48 years
Mhm.
old. There are nights now where I'm like, I don't like the fact that my foot is dangling off the side of the bed. I'm just gonna tuck that back in.
Yep. Same. Hey,
So
hey, wait, how old are you?
48.
48. Sorry. In my head, I thought you said 43. I was
No.
like, I'm the backwards number of you.
No, it's funny because almost all but maybe two or three of my friends that I've met on TikTok are all younger than me, by anywhere from, you know, 10 to 10 to almost 18, 20 years. Um, but for some reason I mean, you know, uh, my best friend, Meg, I've never met her
Hmm.
in person. I've never met her in person, but she's, 33, 34, and, we're best friends. And it's just wonderful. I mean, I've met so many wonderful people on TikTok.
I have to
And
say, while you mentioned Meg, Meg is a beautiful soul.
she is. She really is. She is one of the kindest souls I have ever come across in my entire life. And I don't know that I ever will meet anyone that is more kind and
Hmm.
compassionate than her. And considering what she went through,
Yes.
she could be the most bitter, angry person,
Hmm.
and not a soul on this planet would blame her. But
Nope.
yet, every morning she gets up and she chooses kindness.
I want her on here. Let's get her on here.
Please, I would. Oh my God, that would be amazing. Yeah, absolutely. And I think she would, and I think that with the two of you in the background that you both have,
Hmm.
I think would make for an amazing episode. But that's yeah. So
And
absolutely.
I've never told my whole story on here. So
No. Oh, I don't know that I could sit through. I mean, knowing what I do know and knowing that
hmm,
I don't know the whole thing, I'm not sure I could sit through the whole
that's
thing in one
why
in one sitting
I give
because it's
little
just,
chunks.
yeah, because I mean, that's the other thing that I've noticed. So many of the women that I have become friends with, and I am friends with some amazing women that I've met through TikTok, and present company included.
Oh,
Um, it's true. I mean, how quickly did we become like close friends? I mean, it was like
bestie Westies.
days. Days. And it was so funny, but but so many of the women that I know, that I've met through TikTok have such trauma
Mm,
and that they went through. And all of them are just the kindest people. And it's just it's truly amazing. Yeah, it's all of my closest friends are women. I don't understand that, but
we're
hey.
terrible. We're
Oh,
terrible.
who knows? But I'll
Okay, but
take it.
back to your
Anyway,
shadow
back to my
figure.
story.
Sorry,
Yes, let's
sorry, sorry. I'm a rabbit trail queen.
squirrel. Um, so I could pull the covers over my head, and I don't know how long I was under the covers. I didn't sleep. My heart was pounding, and when you're 5 or 6, you have no concept of time. So I had
Mm.
no idea. To me, I felt like I'd been under there for an hour, and it was probably 5 minutes. So my heart's finally slowed down to the point where I could breathe, and I slowly peeked out from under the sheets along the side of my bed, and there it was,
Oh,
crouched
oh,
next to my bed, staring me in the face. I mean, it was probably less than 2 feet from my face, and it was instant. Pull it
mhm.
right back under, and I stayed there the whole night. I'm not sure. I mean, that image, that just this black shape with these just solid glowing eyes. And the crazy part about it was these glowing eyes, they didn't, they were glowing, but they didn't emit any light.
Oh, have you drawn
So
it?
I have not. And I kind of was thinking about that today, and I started to pen doodle it out a little bit. I might have to do one. Um,
You might bring it to life though.
well, I have some. We'll get into that. We'll get into that.
You guys, I do not know this story. So,
So from then on, I mean, that image has just been burned into my memory, and ever since then, I have been plagued with nightmares,
mm,
about being pursued by this shadow figure. I would go running, and I'd open a door, and there it would be. Or I would turn around, and it's there, and I'd run, and I'd go around a corner, and there it was. And the dread that came along with that also came along with a feeling that this thing wanted me for some reason,
mhm.
but I couldn't explain it. My own At first, my thought was I had come face to face with the devil. And I carried that for the longest time. But I went into this spiritual counseling session with the question. I looked, as much as you can look straight at somebody through like a Zoom call. And I said, what does he want with me? Why has he been chasing me for 48 years?
Mhm.
And we started to talk about it. And, she was very insightful. And I finally would sit there, and it snapped. And I went, that wasn't the devil. Um, I don't know if you've ever heard, and I think people have seen or heard of shadow people.
Mhm.
There are, and oftentimes those are equated with ghosts. And some of them, that's what they are. But there are others. Uh, What I've learned in the last few weeks is there is this entire, I don't want to say world, but there is this entire existence that is there just beyond the veil of our perception.
That's what Lee and I were talking about a couple weeks ago.
See, and a lot of people experience that, but they discount it. They dismiss it as sort of like, oh, it's just my mind playing tricks on me. But
Hmm.
there are times where, all throughout my life, there have been times where I'll catch something out of the corner of my eye, or something has been moved, or something. You get that. People talk about the cold chill.
Hmm.
These were deeply cold, but it wasn't like a temperature cold. It was a
Hmm.
cold there was an emptiness.
That's what I was about to
Um,
say, emptiness. Yeah.
there's that emptiness and that sorrow. And what these shadow entities, they're separate from the shadow people.
Hmm.
They are the only thing I could equate them to is like the Dementors in Harry
Hmm.
Potter. They feed, their whole purpose is to feed off of negative emotions, sadness, anger, hatred, um, you know, depression, anxiety, all of those emotions. And you find somebody at their lowest, and when they're feeling all of these, it's for them, it's like a feeding frenzy.
Hmm.
And their whole goal is to just suck as much of that energy and leave you empty.
Hmm.
Um, So Brie and I started to talk through this stuff, and she was looking at me across the video, and she said, "Boy, you have some really strong, bright energy around you," and without even thinking, I said, "Oh, that's my sister."
Oh.
I so that brings me to the other timeline shift that I was talking to you about
Hmm.
earlier.
Yeah.
So let's back up. I was born in 75. My mother,
That was
when
like
she,
10 years ago.
yes, it feels like it. It might as well be. I mean, I'm still struggling with the fact that I graduated from high school 30 years ago.
At
It's like,
least I was born.
no, right? Yeah. Um, it's like you guys are just babies. But so my mother, when she started to plan to have children, she actually met a psychic by chance, who was a friend of hers, and she gave her a reading, and she said, "You are going to have 4 pregnancies. You're going to have 4 babies." Her doctors looked at her and said, "You will never carry a pregnancy to term." So science was saying, "No babies for you," but the universe was saying, "You will have 4." Now,
I
there
love
are
how
only
much doctors say that to people though, and how how often they're so
yeah.
wrong.
Well, and my mother was a nurse at the
Hmm.
time, and these were doctors that she worked with in the hospital that she was in. So they were, they knew that
Yeah.
they knew that they couldn't bullshit hers.
Hmm.
That's okay, right? I mean,
Yeah, you can cuss. That's
we
fine.
okay.
I'm
Okay.
not monetized on YouTube. We're good.
Oh, thank fuck. No. Um, so that's good because I have a potty mouth.
I
But
I used to use the fake words like in The Good Place.
oh
And then my kids got older and they started using the real words, so I did too.
yeah, exactly. I just forget it, I can't. But so they knew they couldn't lie to her, so they were telling, but based on the science at the time, it
Hmm.
was, you're not going to carry one to term. So the first pregnancy, um, just to give you an idea, myself and my younger sister, my baby sister, are the only 2 children that my mother has. The first pregnancy was very premature and was stillborn. It was a girl. My mother didn't give up.
Hmm.
She got pregnant again, and that one was still very premature, but was born alive. And because she was born alive, they gave her a name, and she is Jennifer Ann.
Oh.
Um, she only survived for a few hours. And then a couple of years later, she was pregnant again. And that was me. I spent the entirety
Did
of,
wait, did you make it?
I did. Yeah, I did survive. Yeah, I did survive. It's not like the joke of, did your mother have any children that lived? But the entire pregnancy, my mother was on medication to keep me in,
Hmm.
and she was on bed rest the entire time. So I spent the entirety of my time in the womb trying to get out. And then when it was time for me to get out, I didn't want to leave.
Ah, you're Evelyn.
So I ended up being late. I
I was 3 weeks late or over 2 weeks late.
think my mother was like almost 2 weeks late. But
Ugh.
yeah, so um, I am a child that, according to medical science, is not supposed to exist. And
Wow.
then 4 years later, my sister was born. Um, so I have always felt that there was a connection between myself and my older sister, Jennifer.
Mhm.
To give you an idea, when my paternal grandfather passed, or maternal grandfather passed away in 2001, we went to the funeral. went through the whole burial, and my mother had commented that it was the same cemetery as where my sister was buried. And I asked her, I said, can we go visit the
Mhm.
grave? And she admitted that it had been, at that point, 30 plus years
Mhm.
almost. She wasn't sure she could find her. And without even thinking, I looked right at her and I said, I can find it. Let's get in the car and go. So we're driving around, and my mother's like, I think it's over here, but it might be over on the other end of the cemetery. I said, no, no, let's drive down this way. And I finally was like, stop. And I got out of the car. My mother got out of the car. My dad got out of the car. Um, and we all started walking. And I literally beelined right to a grave. And you couldn't from the road, well, I don't know if it's a road, but it's a cemetery
Yeah,
type
yeah.
path. Yeah, you couldn't see it. And but I just knew right where it was. I made a beeline right to it, and I stood over it, and I looked down, and I could see Jennifer Ann Thompson. And I knew that she had shown me where it was.
Oh,
And it was just one of those things where it was like, I found it. And my mother came over, and we just stood there for 5 minutes. And both of us were just, yeah, it was emotional. Um, and that was when I knew that there was, I don't know, at the time I was like, I don't know if it's genetics or common energy or what, but I knew that my sister Jennifer and I were bonded somehow. So I firmly believe, when I said to Brie, I said, without even thinking, that's my sister. Um, she was like, she protects you, doesn't she? And again, it was just like she always has. And there were one of the things that I would often experience growing up, and even as recent as a few months ago, was sleep paralysis.
hmm. I was going to
And
ask about that because a lot of times people with sleep paralysis are the people who see shadow figures, even
yes,
even when awake, like not just during sleep paralysis.
yep. And there's actually a couple of different kinds of shadow creatures, but the
Hmm.
ones that generally do cause sleep paralysis, some people refer to them, and I've kind of been doing some research, and I believe that these are the same thing. Is the Hat Men? They are shadow entities that appear to be wearing their shape makes them look like they're wearing like a long coat or cloak and like a fedora, but very often their eyes are glowing red.
Have you watched the show? Oh gosh, the man. Oh God, now I can't remember it. The family like has a manor and like things are happening to them in the show, and there's a hat man in the show
Mm-hmm.
that's following one of the characters around. But yeah, yep.
Yeah, I think the Hat Man himself is more of a creepypasta type of creation but alongside of like Slenderman, but unlike Slenderman,
Mhm.
the Hat Man is, I don't want to say based in truth, because I
Mhm.
can only say what I've experienced myself, and I don't, there is a very strong possibility that I could just be crazy. But but they are the ones that are often associated with sleep paralysis.
Mhm.
But very often, what I would feel is I would sort of kind of be awake, and I would feel this thing crawling up my back and then just laying down on top of me. And I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream, nothing. But almost every time, I would feel whatever it was being lifted off of my back. And then there was just this sudden movement as if it had been either it either had somehow been propelled across the room and out through the wall.
So like your
And
sister was taking it off of you. Oh.
my sister would reach down and grab it and throw it and get it out of there as fast as she could. And I firmly believe that my sister has kept me alive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the one of the things that a lot of people, and this actually is probably the first time I've talked about this publicly. My parents uh, were divorced when I was 5. They split when I was just before I turned 5, and it was devastating for me. There was a lot of fighting. There were times when my dad would storm out of the house, and my mother would be in the bathroom crying, and I would literally be standing outside the bathroom door
Ugh.
and not knowing what to do because I was 5. And she didn't even know. She only found out that I used to do that
Mm-hmm.
last year when I told her. Um, and of course I mentioned my dad before. That was actually my stepfather.
Mm-hmm.
When I said dad now, that was my biological father. But it was devastating for me for them to split because there was a lot of animosity still between the two of them. My mom was dealing with having a newborn with
Yeah.
my sister and me, and I was not handling things emotionally. Um, and at one point, when we had moved into the townhouse that we were renting, I had taken my big wheel. Everybody knows what a big wheel is because I'm old. We had big wheels back in the 80s.
Yeah,
Um,
I had a big wheel.
I love that thing. But I had rode my big wheel down the sidewalk, and when I saw, mind you, this was like I was 5 or 6 years old.
Hmm.
Um, I saw a school bus coming, and I drove my big wheel right out in front of the school bus with the intention of getting hit and killed at 5 or 6.
Hmm.
Um, the only thing that kept me alive was the quick thinking of the school bus driver and our neighbor who came and picked me up off of the big wheel and ran me back across the road.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when I said before about these things, these shadow entities wanting something from me, like I thought it was the devil, but it's actually these shadow entities.
Hmm.
Um, they want me for something. They have always wanted me for something, and they have tried very hard over the last 48 years. Because my sister has always been there to protect me, um, she hasn't been able to stop them entirely, but she's kept them off me enough that I have been able to maintain. But they've been trying to get me to take myself out of the equation.
Hmm.
And it was as recently as probably 4 weeks ago now. I had probably one of the worst mental breakdowns that I've had in a very, very long time. And I came close. I came very close. Um, but it was my sister, and um, a big part of it was Meg. I spiraled and I was headed toward bottom at full speed. And I knew if I hit bottom, that was going to be it. I was either going to be dead or in the hospital.
Yeah.
And I had the wherewithal something told me, get your phone and contact Meg. And I did. And she spent the next 3 hours on the phone with me. And she reached out and essentially grabbed me right before I hit bottom. And that is a debt that I can never fully repay, but I will spend the rest of my life trying to.
And I'm sure Meg says it's not a debt.
Right, exactly. She tells me that, but I'm like, you're not looking at it from my perspective, thanks.
Hmm.
But so with that thought of they want me for something,
Hmm.
Brie and I talked about it more, And as we talked about it more, the pieces started to fall together. And I started to realize that they want me for something. It's not so that they want me for something, they want to put a stop to me. And this is where it kind of gets a little, you know, I might be a little full of myself, it seems like. But their whole goal was to stop me from waking up.
Yeah.
They knew that if I woke up, they would be in trouble. And whatever was behind them
Mm-hmm.
would be in trouble. And it went for the Hat Men and these shadow creatures. Um, what I tended to discover was that they are essentially links in a chain, going back to something that I haven't figured out what it is yet. Um, but at the end of
When you do figure it out, you're coming back on here though.
oh, trust me, oh, trust me, because this sounds so over dramatic, but there is something coming,
No, and honestly,
and it's not good.
there's a lot of, I mean, a lot of people experiencing similar things. And so, and Lee and I were talking a little bit about that, of what it could be. And one of the things that we talked about, which makes the most sense to me personally, just scientifically, is there are other entities, creatures, whatever. It doesn't even have to be technically in another realm, but they're made of something different that we don't see them
Mm-hmm.
without like something going on that creates an ability to be able to see them,
Yep.
whether it's a medical condition or something going on that changes your perspective to be able to see them. They may not see us either.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them might have to have certain different things to be able to see us too.
Yep.
So there may be more of them that just walk around the world. They're not really interacting with us, but we feel that chill or whatever because they walked through us or we walked through each other and had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's very, very, very true. I mean, and one of the things that one of the things that I realized that night was it wasn't necessarily anger or hatred or those kinds of emotions. There was that they felt
Mm-hmm.
towards me, but there was also fear. They were afraid
They were afraid. Okay.
of me.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it goes back to, if I wake up, they're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I have been told for a very long time that I am an empath. Um, I literally cannot sit if I go to a funeral, if I go to a funeral, I cannot sit in the front. I have to sit in the back because all of that energy, all that grief energy is flowing forward
Mm-hmm.
to where either the casket or the urn or just that whole general direction of it. So I don't get hit with it. When I would sit in the front of a funeral when I was a child, I would just be overcome with
Mm-hmm.
grief. And it wasn't, and sometimes it wasn't even a person that I knew. And I would feel this overwhelming grief that, now that I look back on it, it wasn't my grief. It was
Mm-hmm.
everyone else's. Um, Brie has referred to me as a super empath. I had somebody else recently refer to me as the most powerful empath that they've ever come across. And I didn't really understand what that was going to mean. I could feel other people's emotions. I've always been able to do that. And it's always kind of sucked because the strongest emotions are sadness and grief and depression and anger and
Mm-hmm.
hate and those. And when you feel those, when they're not yours, and the foreignness of them is just gives me chills just thinking about it.
So I'm an empath as well, and I have found I don't I just want to see if you relate to this, but when I'm feeling someone else's emotions and things going on, my brain, and it might be the autism, tries to piece it together with something going on and make
Mhm.
sense of it. So, like, if there's someone really angry, I try to find something to be angry about because that anger has to go somewhere, or like sadness too. Like, all of a sudden, like, other things for myself come up because I'm trying to
Mhm.
connect it to something.
Yep. Yeah, no, I do relate to that. My biggest issue has always been taking on that energy and internalizing it
Hmm.
and then literally doing damage to myself.
Hmm.
Because I would carry everyone else's. The goal is to get to a point where I can take it,
Hmm.
relieve the person of some of it, and change it,
Hmm.
make it positive energy, and give it back.
That's what a lot of healers do.
Mhm. But I found more recently that there may be something else that I can do with it, and it may also be why they're afraid of me.
Ah.
So when I got off the phone that night with her, with Brie, um, I just sat at my desk for probably an hour. And this is going to require some.
Yeah.
So, where is it? Here we go. I could always feel them, these shadow entities, these hat men. They're a mix of the two of them. Um, I could always feel them around me. And when we ended that call that night, most of them took off running. Like they were, okay, he figured it out. Let's get the hell out of here. Um, and I just sat there trying to let go of it, to stop feeling them around me now that they were running away. And that was when I started to feel overwhelming sense of warmth and love. And I say warmth, but not heat,
Yeah, yeah.
but care.
Like
And
comfort and
exactly.
mhm.
Um, and I knew right away who it was. And I have never in my life given this being more than a passing thought. And I'll just read you the text
Mhm.
that I have here. This is that's when I felt a warmth envelop me. I knew right away who it was. I heard a soft, gentle voice say, "Welcome home. They cannot touch you anymore." And this gets me emotional when I talk about it. It was Gaia. Mother
Mother Earth.
was speaking to me. And it sounds absolutely insane, but I am so solid in that knowledge now. Um, Mother was talking to me of all people. And there
Do you
was,
think that Mother was also allowing your sister to be with you too for that energy?
we'll get to that.
Ah, darn it. Sorry, guys.
No,
Sorry.
it's fine. No, it's fine. And there was just like I was surrounded by light and love in such a pure form. Um, I always used to tell people that if you ever want to know what the love of God, which is an entity that I don't necessarily believe in,
Mhm.
but just using it as an example, if you ever want to know what the love of God feels like, be loved by a child,
Mhm.
because that child loves you in a way that is not that hasn't been cheated, it hasn't been broken, it hasn't been jaded or scarred. They love in an unconditional way that only a small child is capable of. And that was the kind of love that I felt. It was beyond unconditional love. And I started to cry. Um, and that crying gave way to a little bit of anger.
Hmm.
And I asked her why did it take 48 years of suffering and pain to bring me home? And she said to me, and this is exactly what I heard. She said, "My child, I did not bring you home. I can set you on the path and put people where they need to be so they can help you, but I cannot guide you directly. I couldn't even touch you or speak to you until you arrived at this moment." And she says, "You brought yourself home." She told me that the only way they can get to me now, these shadow entities, the only way they can get to me now is that if I give in to fear and hatred and rage. And then she was gone. And, in that moment, I felt a level of peace that I have never in my entire life felt before. Um, the next morning, I slept that night. I went to bed that night. No nightmares. I slept so soundly. I was just astonished. Um, the that morning when I left for work, I literally could see them, like as plain as I'm looking at you right now. I could see them, the little roaches that they are, and they scattered. As soon as I walked out the door, they scattered. And that's the only thing I could think of is that they scattered like roaches.
Like you were a
And
light when the roaches were running away from.
exactly. And they're afraid. They're afraid of me now. And I could see them. Um, there have been times where I walked through a store about a week ago and I could see them. And there was one that was on top of another person. I could just see it latched onto them. And I could feel the pain coming from that person. And I just was like, no, leave her alone. And it shot a look at me. Of course, I couldn't see this one's eyes because it wasn't one of the Hatmen, but it looked right at me
Hmm.
and just took off. And you could literally see the change in this woman's face when it left. Like it had been latched onto her for it, God only knows how long.
Hmm.
And so what I figured out was that it was funny because I was talking to somebody about this. I was talking to Meg about it, and she was like, "Wait, Gaia is your spirit guide?" I'm like, "No, no, no, she's not. My guide, my guardian, has always been my sister.
Hmm.
When I was born, um, mother went to her and said and told her that I need to be protected, that I will face some things that I need to survive. That whatever it was, they can't let me give in to what these things were wanting." So she went to my sister and asked her, she had to ask her
Hmm.
if she would be willing to bond to me and be my guardian, be my protector, my guide. And my sister gladly accepted. And we have been together ever since. She guides me and protects me to this day. The I shortly after that, I had another experience. It was like 2 days later. I have a good friend whose father had passed away recently, um, and we were talking, and she had to go and accept an alumni award at the college that he was a professor at.
Oh, that really soon after too.
Yeah, yeah. And I was I started to hear and feel, and it got to a point where I'm sitting in my desk at work and I'm going, okay, give me a minute. I will tell her. But I was afraid to. And I said to her, I said, this is going to sound nuts, but your father is proud that you are the one accepting this award for him. And he wants you to know that even though you guys used to butt heads constantly, um, that he has always been proud of you. And he wants you to know that he will be there tonight, standing right beside you,
Hmm.
beaming with pride. And if you feel a warm touch, that's him. And she just like burst into tears. And I'm like, oh God, what did I do? Did I do wrong? I mean, should I not have said this? And no, she was very grateful. And that was the first time I had felt things before, but I didn't know what they were.
Hmm.
And I wasn't willing to accept them or listen to them. And this was the first time that I did that. And it was like I could hear him clear as day. It's not something that I hear a lot, but it happens on occasion. It's usually related to very strong emotions or somebody that I have a relatively strong bond with. And my friend is like family to me. So we do have that. Um, she was very grateful, and I was very moved myself to have been able to do that for her.
Yeah.
Um, so, I started to really think about all of this stuff, and I've had a handful of conversations with my friend Brie since then, and there's other things that have come up that we've kind of gone back and forth on. Um, that what is it that I'm supposed to do? I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. Um, and
And you may also may not know once you've done it either,
exactly. Um, so, you know,
because you just existing might be what you're supposed to do.
there, so about a week ago, I woke up. The only way I can describe it is if you've seen the show Stranger Things,
Of
I woke,
course.
of course, um, nerd. um, all I can liken it to is what the Upside Down looks like in Stranger Things. It's very
Yeah.
dark and dusty and just looking very dead. And there wasn't anything I could see, but I could feel them all
Hmm.
around. They were circling and they were pushing in, but then stepping back. And then I heard screaming. And the voice sounded familiar, so I started moving towards it. And when I got into this clearing, um, there was my friend Brie on the ground, and there were like three or four of these things, like on top of her, just trying to suck all of the energy out of her. And I started walking towards her and yelling at them to get away from her,
Mhm.
leave her alone. Two of them took off running, and another one looked at me and then looked over my shoulder, and then I heard Brie scream, "Look out behind you." I turned around and there's one of the hat men,
Mm.
probably a foot from my face. And it didn't do anything other than stare at me. And I could just feel the rage just radiating off of this thing. But I stood my ground and I looked right at it and I said, "I'm giving you one chance to leave. I won't give you another." And that's when I felt the rage immediately go to fear. And that thing took off like, and it was gone. I turned around and Bree was gone. And there was another one of these shadow entities standing right in front of me. And when I keep calling them the Hat Men, but that's not really what they are. I just haven't figured it out yet.
But to give a visual of,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. There were hundreds of them. I mean,
Hmm.
hundreds of them surrounding this clearing, and they all took when that thing took off. They all took a huge collective step back, and this thing standing in front of me, just full of arrogance and just this filthy, just ugly energy. And that's when I grabbed it, bare hand, like almost as if I was grabbing if it had a shirt on.
Hmm.
And I grabbed it and it started to struggle. And I just held tighter. And then my arm from about my shoulder down started to just glow. And I could feel just this light energy collecting in my arm. Now, mind you, I had no idea what was going on. This is the first time I've experienced any of this. And I don't, to this day, I don't even know if it's real, but I could feel it. And I started to push forward, and the energy went up my forearm into my fist. And this thing let out the most blood curdling scream I have ever heard. I've never heard one of these things make any noise before. And it screamed, and I could feel all of them around the clearing start to back away. And I gave you a chance to leave. And I pushed forward again. And all of the light from my arm and my hand went into it. And it started to glow from the inside out. It screamed and then it stopped. And the thing just disintegrated in my hand, like literally like dust. And that's when the hundreds of them that were on the clearing around the clearing took off in abject terror.
I would too.
They have always, that's the thing, they've always thought they were invincible,
Yep.
and they're not. Um Again, I don't know what any of this means.
Hmm. And if any of you guys listening knows anything,
Please.
please comment, especially on YouTube. We could see the comments,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
you
if
can
you've
email too.
had any experiences like this, let me know, because at this point I don't, I've talked about this information with Bree. I've talked about it with Meg and a couple of other people, and everyone is kind of, I don't want to say stumped,
Hmm.
but it's like as I learn more, there's just more questions and more
Hmm.
questions and more questions. And I all I know is that these things are links in a chain. The regular shadow entities, these shadow creatures that suck energy, the ones that have no face and are relatively, they're only relatively defined in their shape. they are like the front line of whatever this is, and they are there to draw the energy off of people
Mm-hmm.
and send it back up the chain. The Hatmen, they're more powerful. They are more defined in their shape. They are more dangerous. Um, they are the next link in the chain.
Yeah, I
And
was
it,
in my head, I was thinking that the Hat Men were kind of like management.
yeah, they're almost like the lieutenants, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that chain goes back
Mm-hmm.
a very long way. And while they are afraid of me, the thing at the other end of the chain is not. In fact, it's very pissed off because it was counting on these things to get me to take myself out of the equation, and they
Mm-hmm.
failed. And he knows it. It knows it, and is
Do you think that
very, very
they're,
pissed off.
do you think they're almost more scared of the retaliation from not getting you from the higher ups?
I think that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But now that they've had that, I can only think it was a dream. Obviously, I don't think I was teleported to another realm or anything like that. And I do know now that because I immediately the next morning uh, got on Snapchat and I started messaging Brie. I'm like, "Are you okay? Did you have any nightmares last night?" And she's like, "No, I slept fine." I said, "Okay, then it wasn't you. They use your image and your
Yeah.
voice to get to me."
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And you were able to
yeah.
fight them in that dream, which might have scared them too, because they may have been having that dream to scare you away from doing things against them. But then you were able to lucid dream enough that you were able to fight
Mhm.
back even in your dream.
I fell back on what mother told me. And
Mm-hmm.
as long as I don't give in to those negative emotions like rage and fear and hatred and anger, um, they can't touch me
Mm-hmm.
because they don't have anything to feed off of. And the strangest thing was after I had these experiences, my mental health, now that they can't touch me, I still have mental health issues. Don't get me wrong. I'm still seeing my therapist because I need to. And I'm still taking my medication, which is good for all of us. Um, there has been a distinct shift in the direction of my mental health. I mean, Meg can tell you that my mental health was taking a nosedive. Um, and now that I have this knowledge, now that I have this awareness, um, it's taken a shift. Will it stay that way? I don't know, but I'm going to do everything I can
Mm-hmm.
to try to maintain it because what scares me is that knowledge that there is something at the other end of the chain and
Mm-hmm.
it's bad. I cannot, bad is like an understatement. It is very bad. Um, and I don't know. I mean, Brie and I have talked about it, and Meg and I have talked about it. How my initial thought was, I need to wake up other people. I
Mm-hmm.
need to say it sounds so ridiculous, like gather people to be able to tell them to say, look, I'm not looking to start my own religion. Please don't say that. Um,
But
I
other people who have the ability to see them to
exactly.
fight back.
They need to know that if they don't give in to these emotions,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing that can stop them. There's nothing that can stop us from taking steps
Starve
push
them.
push these, yes, to starve them, to push them
Mm-hmm.
back, to break the chain so
Mm-hmm.
that whatever that is at the other end loses its food source. Because I don't think if this thing comes out of the darkness, we're going to be able to take it head on without taking away its food, so to speak. Um, it's not the devil. I don't think the devil exists. As much as Gaia is light and love and life,
Mhm.
we are we are all Gaia's children from, and I don't mean just humans, from the smallest microbes all the way up to the blue whale. We are all her children. And there is things that upset her that we do that we need to stop doing. There are, but she is just this radiation of love. And there is something that is the exact opposite of that.
And there's something like, as you
And
say,
it's
that
bad.
brings people to show so much darkness, and like us fighting amongst each other and fighting because of invisible lines that we created and religions that we make up, and just having all these excuses to fight constantly and over these resources that we've just decided somebody owns. And it's just not the way that the world should be. It's not the
Exactly.
way that humanity should be. And every, like, I'm not going to say everyone, a lot of people's main, like, when you ask them what would make you happy, what would be your ideal life, and a lot of them it's like to live in a community of people who all get along and have things that they all offer together, and they can bring those different skills together and be successful and fruitful together and not people above each other. Yet we have society that's just based on fighting to get to the top.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only a couple people who could be at the top. So,
We've the large portion of society has given in to greed, and it's terrible. It is absolutely terrible.
and all we're doing is the same thing that the crabs do. Like when they're trying to get out of the bucket, they're just pulling each other down, just trying to like
Mm-hmm.
climb on top of each other to get to the top. And
Yeah.
where no one's winning.
You no, I mean the simple fact is that if that continues, we're all going to lose.
We're
We're all
gonna.
we're all
I'm
going to
playing.
lose bad.
I'm playing Fallout 4 right now, and yeah, we're
Right.
gonna lose pretty bad.
But I had another my most recent thing. Um Mother came to me the other night, and it was the night that you were going through a difficulty, and another close friend was going through something else. I was so angry. And it was like, I really wish the universe would stop kicking the people that I love, because I can't do anything about it. I
Do
could
you
not.
think that it's partially things doing it to try to make you angry?
No. Um, but I did get angry, and I ranted at the universe, at Mother, anything. I ranted at my cat, you know,
That's
and
who
I,
gets most of my ranting.
right,
So.
exactly, exactly.
Darn
So,
MILF potato.
I'm telling you, mine is just a little tubby potato. Anyway, um, I got so angry because all I wanted to do was to stop my friends from hurting, going through. And it's just like, as I thought about you, and it's like, she's had enough. She has gone through enough. Give her a fucking break. And it was the same thing with my other friend. Been through enough. Stop. And I was very angry. And again, she hit me with that love and that warmth and that light. And she came to me and she said, "You need to understand that while I can do many things, there are some things that are outside of even my control.
Mhm.
Some things just happen. There is no rhyme or reason to it. It doesn't make sense. It hurts. She said, you getting angry is only going to result in two things. You are going to let them back in, which I warned you about, and you are going to be no good to your friends. If you sit in rage and anger, you cannot help them. You cannot provide them with any kind of support or relief. You need to let that go.
Yeah.
And essentially, mother came to me and said, will you chill the fuck out? It's just in not so crude of words,
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
far
No,
more eloquent, but
but I
that was
also
the thing.
completely agree with what she
Oh,
said to
absolutely.
you
Mhm.
because, and I've talked about this on one of my early episodes that I did. Um, I firmly am a believer that everything does not happen for a reason.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense that it happens for a reason because my boyfriend didn't die for a reason. There was no better place that he went to from being in the home with his parents. There's no reason that he needed to leave the earth at that age. Like, that's just, there's no reason. There's no reason that I was assaulted multiple times. There was no reason. Like, that's ridiculous. And for me, I'm like, well, the reason is because people suck sometimes. And people choose to do things that hurt other people. I didn't do some bad thing that made me worthy of that happening. There wasn't some cosmic lesson I needed to learn over and over again.
Yeah, if there's a
So,
lesson, I'm kind of tired of learning it.
yeah,
Thanks.
thank
Yeah,
you.
I think I've learned it. Yeah, it is one of those things. And I think one of the hardest things is that I deal with, is not punching people that say it's all part of God's plan. I'm like,
God, I hate it. And
oh, is me knocking your teeth through the back of your head part of God's plan now too? Because that's what's going to happen if you say that again. But
and
no,
and
it's yeah,
I know we've all been guilty of saying those things that we feel like we should say in the moment, but they're not healthy, they're not genuine, they're not helpful. And we really need to actually start speaking, like, not, we don't have to say anything. If you have nothing to say, it is okay to say, I don't have the words for the situation right now, and I will let you speak or not speak, and I'm here to sit in silence with you or listen to you, but I don't need to say something right now.
yes, and that is a hard that is far easier said than done. I think, I'm sure you would agree that it's just you literally have to learn
Mhm.
to do that because I mean, and it's like I know for myself, I have that experience a lot where because people feel comfortable with telling me things, and have always. And when they come to me with something that's so painful and raw,
Mhm.
even years after it happened, I don't know what to say. And you know, there are so many phrases that like you said, we're all
Mhm.
guilty of saying, it's part of God's plan. Everything happens for a reason. God only gives you what you can handle, all of that horse shit.
Mhm.
But it's the reason we do it is because we don't know what to say. And we feel like you said, we feel like we need to say something. And one of the things that I have fared myself, tried very hard to do less is to say that I'm sorry.
That's a hard one for me.
It is. Why, you're in pain. I'm saying I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Why? I didn't do anything. I'm trying to comfort you. And I get it, but it's like learning to just say that it really sucks that you're going through this. And
Yeah.
I want to help you. I want to support you in whatever way I can. Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's like all you can do sometimes is just acknowledge the terminal suckage for what it is.
I think
Eh,
so. My language I've tried to turn around instead of saying I'm sorry, like especially on videos of people that are like venting about what's going on or saying something that like bringing attention to something based on their own past and things like that, is just saying you're valid. Your feelings are valid. What you went through is valid. Your memories are
exactly.
valid. It is all valid. And I have tried to switch my vocabulary from sorry to valid. And that takes it off of me because it has nothing to
Mhm.
do with me.
Yep.
And I feel like saying I'm sorry is kind of not selfish, but like, I don't know, self-absorbed. Like you had something to do with it. And
Right.
you're like, you put it back on them, like what you're going through is valid. And I'm here for what you need.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's something that, it's like, a lot of people, I've learned sometimes the hard way is that you may think you know what somebody needs in their time of pain and crisis, and you might even be right.
Mhm.
But if they're not open to it, if they're not receptive, what you think they need doesn't matter. You have to help people how they want to be helped, not how you think. You have to give them give them the help that they need, that they want, not the help that you think they need.
Yeah.
Because maybe it is not, maybe they do need what you think they need, but not from you.
Hmm. Which is
And that,
also okay.
yes, absolutely. And that is, like you said, it's one of those things that I have had to learn is to, you know, even if I think somebody's feelings are to the point where they don't make sense to me,
Hmm.
that's still how they feel. And the worst thing you can do is invalidate someone else's emotions. And one of the things that I have tried to teach my children is if someone comes to you and says, "You hurt me," your job is not to defend yourself. Your job is to acknowledge that hurt. Whether you think it's valid or not, whether you think there's justification for it or not, it doesn't matter. In that moment, they are hurting and they believe you have caused it.
Yeah. And what are you winning by defending yourself? There's nothing.
No.
And it doesn't take away the hurt. It doesn't make them feel like you're listening. And it's so hard, especially like in the workplace when you think that, but at least for me, it was hard in the workplace at first when I was a manager and having people come to me saying that things that I did upset them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like this unspoken thing that managers, they're just they don't listen to that. You chose to do what you did for a reason, and so you just tell them like that's not valid. No, I'll listen. I would listen to them. I would hear what they had to say. I would tell them I understand why why you feel that way and why it comes across that way. And you're completely valid in your feelings. This is why I did it this way to give you a little bit of context. I
Mm-hmm.
may or may not change what I did based on what they're saying, but at least I'm hearing them. I'm hearing their ideas of how it could change and be different. And then with all of that information going forward, deciding how to change things or if I need to change things.
Yeah.
Um, but just listening more. It's
Mm-hmm.
just what we need to do.
It's just, yeah, you should listen more than you speak. That is one of the
Mhm.
most important things. Though I do have a joke, and this is related to what we're talking about.
Perfect.
Um, I'm sorry and I apologize mean the same thing unless you're at a funeral.
Mm. I'm going to say that at funerals now. I
I would.
apologize.
I apologize. I'm like, but yes, no, that's yeah,
Uh,
but it's there's a lot that I'm still trying to unpack with all of this stuff, but it is opened, even if everything that I have just gone through is
Mhm.
complete baloney, which the skeptic in me wants to
Yeah.
say, dude, that was total horseshit. How can you believe any of that? Um, it still has made some fundamental shifts in my thinking and how I approach other people and how I approach myself.
Mhm.
Um, so
If
regardless, I'm
if it
grateful for that.
yeah, if it makes you a more understanding and empathetic person, what's the harm?
Hmm.
Either
Hmm.
way.
Yeah, it's I don't want to turn into like this, militant agnostic where I run around going, I don't know, and you don't either, you know.
Do
But
it.
yes, you don't know. No, but yeah. So that is my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I like it. And I'm really curious what other people are gonna say and
Yeah,
think about or their experiences as well,
yeah.
because I've read a lot of similar experiences to yours.
Hmm.
And there's enough out there of people, like even the podcasts that I listen to, that have very similar experiences with sleep paralysis and seeing the same things. And then they've
Hmm.
brought other people on that also experience the same things. And there's very successful, financially and also socially successful people who have come forward with very similar things as well, that have
Hmm.
nothing to gain from saying it, everything to lose and nothing to gain. So I believe you. I believe that that's what you experienced, and there's something to it for all these people to see very similar things.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I'm happy to know that you and I are still going to be friends in the morning.
No, no.
No, no, I'm washing my hands of you. You
You
are a
all,
little too crazy for me.
before we got on here, you guys, before I started recording, he's like, um, I just, we might not be friends at the end of this because you might think I'm absolutely bananas.
And we might be friends at the end of this, and you might still think I'm completely bananas,
Oh,
but
yes, that part was there too. That part was there too. What
Oh
a, yeah, I
goodness.
really, really want you all to go on to the YouTube, even if you don't watch it on there and you listened, and comment just if you've had an experience, if you know someone who's had an experience. And we can also do another video if there's people who want to come on and talk about their experiences too. And
Hmm.
we can all have a chat. I don't know how many guests I can have on here at once, but we can do it.
Well, I will say I have to see if I can screen record, but I do have because I am a Google Workspace subscriber. I can actually run Google Meets with a very
Right.
large number of participants for however long I want to run them.
I have Zoom and can record. So I pay for the like business Zoom,
Hmm.
but Google Meets too is that's what Lee and I were using, and there's a reason we switched, and I don't remember why.
Yeah,
If it
but
works though, oh,
yeah, I mean,
it was the screen recording, and the screen recording was weird for hers.
hmm.
And I think that was what it was. Because on here it just records like in the system and saves it as an audio and a video file.
Oh, okay,
And there were smaller files than Google Meets.
go figure.
eh, but I don't know why they're smaller. Sometimes they're big, sometimes they're small. I don't know what's going on. Um, but yeah, if you guys know what's better, you can also comment that too. If you don't have an experience, just go comment, okay?
Just go leave comments and hit like and subscribe and share and
Yes, do those things too.
is it
What plugs would you like to put in? You're gonna write the bio so that we have all of the links to everything and usernames that you want people to find you at. But in
yes.
case they don't read that, tell us.
Well, when I'm not raving like a religious lunatic, on a street corner, I also do voice recordings, voiceovers, and voice acting, I guess I could call it. And you can check a lot of that out on my TikTok. Pretty much everywhere you want to find me, I go by the handle Undead Papa, except for Instagram because somebody has that, so I had to go by
Ah.
Undead Papa 519. Um, but I am also an artist.
A good one.
Thank you.
He's gonna be
Um,
doing eventually, he's gonna do Lee and I as monsters for our frightening Frauen.
yes, I love doing one of my favorite things to do is zombie portraits of people that I know. One of the reasons I love doing it, I figured this out on my last one, um, was that I look at it as sort of like the person's internal trauma
Hmm.
brought to the surface. But yet, even though there is that trauma sitting right there on the surface, there is still the beauty of that person
Hmm.
also. And I think that's I've been trying for a long time to figure out why I like to do those and what I was trying, not so much what I was trying to say, but what the art was telling me. And
Hmm.
I finally figured that out, and that's really made them a lot more meaningful to me. But yeah, most of my artwork centers around horror and zombies, and yeah. So,
That's
but
what we love here.
I do other things too, but what else? I will also provide a link to my friend Brie, who is, as I've said, she's become my spiritual advisor, but she also does tarot readings, and she's scary accurate with them. But she also does a lot of things, other things that are related to. Um, she specializes in shadow work. Uh,
Hmm.
she is just again one of those very caring and compassionate individuals who's gone through a lot of trauma.
Well, if
Um,
she ever wants to come on too, she can be on either Two Crows or Frightening Frauen, or both.
I will put her in touch with you because I think she would get the biggest kick out of that, and she could even I bet you she could even do a reading on the podcast for you,
Oh my gosh, that would get people over to her too. Oh, pointing the
right?
wrong way again.
This way, this way. Yeah,
It's so
uh,
weird. It's so backwards to
I
me.
know, but yeah, I'll provide a link to her website.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean you can't go wrong. And also she's just even when she's doing the reading, she's incredibly fun. Um, but yeah, that's I mean, I am going to be hopefully setting up a website for selling my art, originals and prints that will hopefully be coming. I'll have that in my what is it, Linktree or Beacons, or I don't know which one I'm
Well,
using at this point. One of those.
probably
And
on your
then
Instagram. Is it
it
linked?
it is linked from my Instagram and from my TikTok page.
Oh, good, good, good. Okay.
Yes, yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I love to have people come and interact with my stuff and tell me what they like, tell me what they don't like. Just be nice
Yes.
because, and yeah. So, but no, as one of the things that I always say when I sign off a lot of my videos is be kind to each other and be kind to yourself because kindness matters,
It really does.
and so do you.
He's
That's
talking
so
to me, not you. No.
all of you. Well, okay, fine, just you, Tyler.
We all matter.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And it would be a much nicer world if we all just took a second and showed everyone, the people that we come into contact every day, a little more
That's
kindness.
yes. And as you guys know, I like to give homework sometimes, and your homework is to go and do something nice for someone that you don't know.
Mm-hmm. That's something that I teach my kids. Kindness should be given freely. It can be something as simple as a smile.
Yes.
And that smile could save someone's life.
And if
And,
you see someone crying on a bench, just sit there and you can even tell them, I don't know what to say right now, but I'm here for whatever you need.
I think my grandfather told me one time, he said, the best thing that you can be as a man, and I'm sure this applies for women too, but he was talking to me, um, is to
Well,
be
I'm both, so it's okay.
exactly okay. Well, yeah, no, that makes sense. But what he said to me was the best thing that you can ever be as a man is kind. and not just to the people you love, to the people who can do nothing for you, to people who you find least deserving of it, because oftentimes they are the ones who need it the most.
They really are.
Yes, I believe that.
Mm,
Oh,
lovely. You're gonna make me cry at the very end.
well, yeah, no, what? Let's not make you cry. Not
Okay.
today, not this time.
Well, as always, thank you all. I will also link the Patreon as well as the one-time donation Cash App in the description if you want to give it all to the podcast. It helps me keep everything running. I don't really make much from this. It keeps all of my things I have to pay for to do this running.
Keeps the lights on.
And I'm gonna need a new laptop soon, so I'm really sad.
You know
um,
what? You know what?
mm,
Message me later,
okay.
because I actually sometimes can get decent laptops
Okay.
for.
I might just have to wipe it and like redo it. I just every time I go to turn it on now, I have to restart it like 3 times or it keeps giving me a black screen, just my
Oof.
mouse I can
Mm.
see. And I have to like keep restarting it. So I'm backing everything up to like external hard drives so that I can just in case something happens.
That's not a bad idea. I've had people come to me like, I by day I am a professional computer nerd,
But
and
yeah, I have an
it's crazy.
Omen and I bought it in 2018. So it's seen life.
Well, but even 2018, there might be some things that you can do to it that might make it run better. We can talk.
Okay, let's talk. And then you guys won't have to donate to my laptop fund.
Don't tell them that.
To my other fund. No. But thank you all. I really, really appreciate you. And I will post all the links in the descriptions and go over to YouTube, like I said, and comment because we want to know what you think of the episode. And if you want to be on the on an episode or you have a story you want me to read, feel free to email it to me. The email will be in the description. And as always, crow out.